You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona. With me always is my good friend
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And once again, I'm still on the road, so I'm actually in Texas. And this episode you're going to join is with me and Jay. We actually got to, my work brought me through Austin, and I was able to kind of hook up, and we kind of had a fun day. So this is all about our antics as I had my 24-hour period there in Austin, and we kind of made it work.
The good news is we all have all our fingers and toes. Well, most of our toes.
All of our digits are still in place. So yeah, it was kind of, yeah, I know, right? It was kind of great. We work brought me through there, and I got there relatively early in the morning, and I had told Jay, hey, you know, I arrive at the airport around 11ish, 11:30ish, and as things worked out, we were going to be slightly early, so that it was even better because now I'm going to arrive at around 11 o'clock. And anyway, touched down and kind of got my stuff ready and got done with work and text Jay and said, "Hey, buddy, I'm here. I'm walking outside." And Jay said, "I'll be there in an hour." Because somebody
I
had
kind of
overslept.
Yep, I was sleeping good that night.
Yeah, well, that was the funny part.
But I got there very quickly.
Yep. No, you did. It mattered. It was there actually faster than what I thought. But the good news is we got to, he called me and said, "Yo, dude, I'm sorry," and we got to chat for the whole time you were kind of driving. And it's funny because I'm on the phone as he drives up, and I get in the car and hang up the phone. We kept on our conversation like we never really stopped. So. But we had a really good time. I actually, showed up at Jay's. It was kind of mid afternoon, and he wanted to kind of put some planes together. So what was you had some questions with this? I think it's called an ugly stick or a big stick or what is that airplane?
It's a mini stick.
Ultra stick.
I think it's in the other room. Yeah, it's a mini ultra stick.
Yeah.
So the problem I was having, it wasn't so much a problem. It was just that I had to do some repairs on it, and I was just asking Mike a question as to if I should add some fiberglass, not add some fiberglass, or if he just thought that just a quick, some epoxy or just some CA glue, and then I was good to go. He said, well, some epoxy with some filler would be better. I was like, well, great. I just happen to have some balloons right here. Boom, whipped out my thing of balloons and mixed them up. And then I let Mike go crazy with that. And we made my repairs. And so they were all, it was repaired and ready to go. And, by the time we went out flying after dinner. So by the time it got to be dinner time, and then we went out because it was hot, it's hot here in Texas. So by the time we got out at dinner, we got out there that hour before nighttime when we got out to the field. And we brought the mini ultra stick, and then we bought the Bison as well to fly. Mm-hmm. And I had wanted Mike to fly it because the last time that he was here and we were flying it in its regular configuration, because it has flaps and slats. And so I didn't like the way it was flying with the slats. I mean, the minute you drop the flaps and slats, I mean, that plane's coming down. And not to say that it was uncontrollable or it was horrible. I was just wondering if maybe I had to lessen the amount that the flaps. I was using the stock configuration. And the way I was thinking was that I needed a little less slats for the amount of flaps that I was using. And so I asked Mike to go ahead and fly it and tell me what he thought of it and whether I should change the configuration up or just leave it as is. And it was super still. I mean, it was a beautiful night when we got out there.
Yeah,
it looked beautiful. The sunset was beautiful. and there wasn't it for that field. It was not windy at all, which was kind of strange. But hey, we'll take it.
That's true. So, and we'll actually circle back to the Bison because that's a whole nother flight. But let's go to the mini ultra stick because when Jay handed it to me, there was no landing gear on it, and it felt or looked like it had broken half, but that's not really the case.
No, no, it
There
yeah,
was a hard landing or something had.
when I had flown it before, the last time I had landed it, it kind of got stressed a little bit on the landing gear. So I before Mike got there, I took the landing gear off. That way, when we did the repairs, we just go ahead and just do the repairs with the landing gear off. So I took the landing gear off, prepped the plane so that we could just do the repairs. When I handed it to him and told him to take a look at it.
So it was the little box on the bottom of the airplane where the landing gear sits in, and it had come apart. There's it's a square airplane. It doesn't have a round fuselage. It's kind of a oblong, rectangular
Yeah,
shape.
right.
And so there's
Yeah.
a piece on the bottom,
Mhm.
and then two pieces of balsa wood on top, and then there's a flat, kind of a flap where you can kind of see down inside it. And so he asked me. He said, "Should we glass this?" And the problem is, it's covered in fabric, and so, or not fabric, but monocoat. And I was like, "Well, if you glass this, you're going to have to peel the monocoat off, and then you're going to have hump in underneath the monocoat, and the monocoat may,
Oh, I
it's
meant
not going to stick."
inside the plane. Inside the plane. Yeah,
Right,
I was
and
talking about
the
inside the
way
plane,
when he
not the
handed
outside.
it to me, right, and when he handed it to me, I was thinking it was on the outside, and I'm like, I'm pushing up on this balsa wood that's coming apart, but it fits together really nicely. And I was like, "Yeah, you don't need to glass this. You can do the same thing with just the micro balloons and some epoxy." So, like Jay said earlier, he mixed some up. He, kind of put it together, and actually, I when he first did it, it was kind of a runny consistency, but I added way more balloons to it to make it a little bit thicker than Elmer's glue. It was significantly thicker, and so it had like a consistency of like Play-Doh almost. And so I grabbed a toothpick and kind of rolled it up on there so it kind of sat. And then I squeezed the plane apart and I glued all that stuff inside there and made a little fillet behind it as opposed to just putting it on the edge. And then once we got that set up, we taped it and then flipped it over. And then down on the inside, where the parts that we could get to, we built it up in a little 30-degree angle along the edge. And then once it dried, it was pretty stout. I think Jay was like, "Whoa, that's pretty good." It worked out pretty well. And so, yeah, he threw the landing gear back on and then said, "Hey, charged up some batteries." And I think he used what, 3-cell batteries on that?
I was using 3 cell, and I charged up a couple of 4 cells because I wanted to try it out with some 4 cells. So we got out to the field, and the field being as rough as it is, I tried to taxi it, but it kept nosing over because the gears
Yeah.
just where they had the gear, it was just too far back, and it would just nose over every little bump it hit. So I just elected to give it I just hand tossed it, and the plane just took off, and like I said, I thrust the controls in Mike's hands, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get toss it. He's like, what? And I'm like, whew, give it a chuck. Nothing better than getting your friend's attention, just chucking that plane. You
Yeah.
ready? Okay. So on three, three.
That's about the way it worked too.
Yep. So
Mm.
so he didn't panic, nothing wrong went, and flew the plane around. I also so this was kind of a double trouble type of thing. So not only was I just, getting the plane remade and to fly again, I was also testing out a receiver that unfortunately when
Mm.
I was flying with my buddy Jim the week prior in his Dolphin, and we had this mishap in his Dolphin, destroying the
Right.
plane. I was trying out the receiver to make sure that it was working right. And for the most part, the receiver was working, and it was one of these lemon all-in-one receivers. So it's got
Mhm.
telemetry in it. It has a barometer in it, so you can use it
Mhm.
for a glider, and it's got a three-axis gyro in it. It also will monitor your uh, um, the voltages and stuff like that in there as well. So it does a bunch of stuff, and for $34, I got to say
Yeah, it's
it's a
pretty
good
amazing.
deal for what you're
Yeah.
getting, and it's 7 channels. That particular one's 7 channels. So
Right.
compared to the older style, gyro from Lemon. Let's see if I can get this
Right.
shot there.
There you
It's
go.
a little longer, but it does way more for about the
Mm,
same price as what this was going for a couple of years ago. And
yeah.
like I said, it worked really, really well. And once again, there was a little bit of wind once you got up higher. So the plane was getting tossed around because it's super light. But the gyro did a good job keeping it fairly stable, and everything worked. Was working out great. Right up until the landing. And then well, not this was that's right. It was not when I was with Mike. It was later on when I was when I was flying with my buddy. I ended up ripping the gear off, and then I gave it to him, and then he did one of his fabulous repairs, and he
Again?
moved. Yeah, and then we moved. He moved it all. He moved it back, or no, he moved it forward, gave it a little bit more
Forward.
angle, and now I can taxi it
Mm.
all over the field. It works out. It's working a lot better. So it all worked out.
And just to be clear, it wasn't me. I landed it on the field, and it actually landed and then
Oh
came
yeah,
to a
yeah, yeah.
stop.
You landed it fine. Yeah,
So yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. The landing worked really well. I mean, the gyro kept it stable, and the only
Hmm.
thing that was really going kind of Jay cautioned me on was that we shoved the battery in there and strapped it down, but that when I started doing aerobatics, he goes, "Hey, I don't know if I'd do that because I just shoved the receiver in there, and I don't want that coming apart, gyro coming apart." He just kind of put it in there,
Oh, that's right. I didn't
jammed
really
it in.
secure this receiver down. Yeah,
So yeah, the gyro was working and the receiver was sitting there. So I had
yeah. That might have been bad.
that could have been bad. I didn't know that. And I'd done a couple of acro
Yeah, it
maneuvers,
could
and
have
he's
been
like,
very
"Ooh,
bad.
I just dial that back a little bit." So, but it flew really nice, and yeah, when I brought it in, the last I saw it when I left there, it was all in one piece. So I didn't realize that
Well, yeah, it
you had
was in
gone
one
and
piece, but
flown again.
yeah, we flew it. I think we flew a couple of days later, and once again,
Gotcha.
when I got back home and looked at it, it was just as well because it had another major. What's the word? What's the word? We didn't have a mishap, but we had the potential to have a major mishap, and that was because the wing's bolted on, and the two up in front, has a wing saddle for and two slots that are in the wing that go
Oh, that's
into
right.
the wing saddle that keep it secure, and that
That's right.
and so when stuff broke, it actually broke all the way up there, and it separated along the
Right.
sides because like I said, the way the landing gear was sitting in there, it had broken the sides of the fuselage free from everything.
Right.
So it peeled it
Right.
away from the plate that was on the bottom for the landing gear, and at the top, that wing saddle, it had ripped it apart too. So once again, had Mike really started honking on it doing aerobatics, we would have had a rubber band separation from from the wing from the wing to the fuselage, and we would have just had a
That's
little
right.
missile.
Yeah.
If he had done anything really super serious, but luckily, like I said, I was able to catch that and put on some more epoxy, and everything worked out well. So
It did work out. So, all right. Well, good to know. And then, so after we got done with that one, and I think, did I fly it on a 4 cell or was it a three
no, I
cell?
never you never got a chance to fly it on the 4 cell. It was
Yeah.
just
Cause it
three
was
cell
getting dark.
that you were there.
Yeah. Okay. So it was kind of getting dark and he's like,
Yeah,
"Hey, I got the Bison and it's got lights and let's fly this one since that one flies good." And, we knew it was not a receiver problem. And, it's just kind of
yeah.
that's a dark red and you just really couldn't see anymore. So the Bison we put together, or Jay put it together. It had all the lights on it. And Jay's like, "Here you go." He thrust the controller in my hand again, said, "Knock yourself out." So I took off and flew it around. And that's the first time I've flown it since its maiden when I flew it,
Maiden,
when,
right.
when your birthday was around.
Yeah, on a super gusty day.
And with a super heavy 6 cell battery.
Oh, yeah, that's right too. Yep.
We had the big chunky 5500 milliamp 6 cell, and it was just felt like a rock flying around up there. So Jay has been experimenting in some of our last podcasts. I think he talked about going to a 4 cell, changing the prop, and now he's kind of settled on a 5 cell and the prop combo to make it a little bit better. And so he's like, "Here, I'm not going to say anything. You fly it and you test it out, and let me hear what you had to say." And so it was. I will tell you that it took off just beautifully. I had about takeoff flaps in there, which does have a little bit of slats. The airplane took off in just a matter of feet. It didn't take a long takeoff roll at all. Got it up airborne. The lights were fabulous. You could see it. I flew it around. I think I did a roll or two, and it was kind of out of trim. And so as I was flying it, Jay's like, "What do you need?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I need this, this, and this." And he kind of gave it to me where I could actually get it flying level and then kind of tweak it. And finally, I got it where it was flying hands off. It flew great. I mean, I was really surprised on that configuration with the 5 cell and that prop combo, how well it flew. And so I kind of flew it around a little bit, and then he goes, "Okay, go ahead and come on in and land." And I did the downwind to base final, and then I went ahead and added the full flaps. And when the full flaps come out and the slats come out, the airplane definitely pitches nose down. The way that we normally fly with the longer approach, you go out a little further, come down, and then you kind of fly this 3 degree to the floor, to the ground, which was what most of the time Jay and I have been doing. That this is a little different because if you did that with this one, it just falls, and you got to be at about, what did I say, 33%.
Yeah, about a third. Yeah.
Yeah, so about 33% or a third of power, and so you're actually slowing the airplane down, but you're dragging it across that area as opposed to letting it just come down on its own. Which I think a lot of times flying electrics, you can come to idle power and just kind of coast it in. But this one definitely flies like a stall aircraft, right? Like a short takeoff and landing airplane. It's got a lot of drag, and those flaps are huge, and those slats create even more lift at a way slower speed and at a much steeper angle. So the first time I came in there and threw it all out, I was like, "Oh yes, right on, this is awesome," right? And Jay's like, "Really?" He's going, "You don't think that's just I'm like, "Well, you have to do it closer to the runway, right? So your pattern isn't as big as what we've normally been flying. It's very short." So I took off, climbed real hard, made a turn, and then I just pulled the power off, and then I immediately it turned in and like right at the edge of the field. And of course, when you come down, it's coming down with a nose down attitude. You have to add power to get the nose kind of up because you've got elevator and you're adding that power to keep it in there. And I'd say the first couple, I don't know, Jay, the first couple landings were just spot on, just rolled them right on from
Yeah,
my
it's just something
perspective.
to, at least for me, it's just something to get used to. And I wasn't sure, like I said, I wasn't sure if that was right or that I needed to just make a slight subtle change, you know,
Hmm.
with the slats. Like if I'm flying something just full flaps, it doesn't get as steep as that. So
Mm-mm.
I didn't think it was going to be as bad. But anyway, it was like I said, I just need to have a second opinion of somebody else flying that's flown something similar
Hmm.
plane like that, and definitely helped with the experience that you had, and you were just like talking me through it, and I was like, okay, well, now that I know what
Yeah.
to do or that this is normal,
Right.
there really wasn't a need
Right.
for me to change anything. So
Right.
but a couple of times,
Yeah.
like I said, it's really cool when the wind does come up and it's really windy. I just like how you
Hmm.
can drop this thing like a rock, you know,
Right.
from 100 feet. It just kind of comes down. I'm coming down now, straight down. I don't care about the wind,
Right.
and so now that I'm used to it, it's fun. It's a fun plane.
I have to admit that I did have a bad landing. Most of my landings were pretty decent, but that one was really kind of a bouncy. And Jay's like, "Oh, you got to go around and do that one again. You can't leave on that time." But the problem is it was dark by that time, and all you could only see the
Yeah,
lights. You couldn't see the
yeah,
airplane itself.
yeah.
So,
That's true. That was pretty funny.
uh,
And it was just in
and
that
so
hazy,
anyway,
grazy, everything's
yeah,
getting gray and
yeah.
monotone. The field's now kind of fading in on itself.
Well, and it's when you dropped it below the trees.
Yeah, and you lost your depth perception. You're
Yeah,
just like, okay, is that
yeah.
how far away is that? I should have that. Once again, that gear works really, really, really well. And those balloon tires with the
Oh
gear,
yeah,
yeah. So if you hit
right.
hard or you come in a little fast, man, you will have a bouncy, bouncy, bouncy time. So
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
that was fair. That was fair,
It's like landing on a pogo stick.
Yeah, right? And, those lights are super bright, man. So you got that super
Mhm.
light brights lights, that if you stare at them too long, you'll be seeing spots. It's getting
Yep.
dark and everyth's kinda melding into each other, and then you're looking at that bright light, then looking at the field, which is, darky dark. You're like, "Huh?"
Mhm.
S Getting the squint vision on, you know? Yeah, it looks about right. That's a foot. No, you're 30 feet in the air.
It was pretty fun. We flew it around a couple times, around the pattern and we did some, I think I landed it without flaps and half flaps and full flaps, and so we kinda got the full
Mhm.
gamut of it, and by then it was dark. It was dark enough that I started,
Dark, yeah.
"Okay, this isn't I'm not Barry, I'm not gonna fly in pitch dark at midnight," like, he flies his L-39, his, you know I've seen him
Ripping.
actually fly his EDF in pitch dark. I'm just like, "I don't know how you do that, but I'm not willing to take the risk," and I wasn't gonna risk Jay's airplane on top of that. But it was great, and, we had a really good time. We went back, to the house, and, Jay, oh my gosh, he made me this he said, "We gotta end the night, with a treat," and so he made this waffle what it was, a waffle ice cream sandwich.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I I don't even he was, like, in there doing something in the kitchen.
Yeah, definitely not good if you're on a diet or you have diabetes.
No. It was definitely a diabetes injection, that's for sure. So, but it was a good time. I mean, unfortunately, it was really a quick, kinda stop by, but we did get a lot of stuff done. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
probably more so I've been there where we didn't get as much done, you know, too many games or whatever, but we did get some stuff done, and we did get to go out and fly. It was a beautiful night,
Well,
even
we
though
didn't
it's
play
getting
any
dark.
games at all, so
Uh,
there's the key.
no. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We got a lot more done this time because we weren't goofing off. I know a lot of times when I
Yeah, there you
arrive, we
go.
were like, "Hey,
Squirrel.
get the Xbox out and start playing games," and then forget all about building, airplanes till, like, 2 in the morning. And the unfortunate thing too is that I had to be, back at work at, dark 30, so,
Oh,
unfortunately,
dark
Jay
30.
I had to
Yeah.
get him up and I had to get him up at dark 30 and to
You
get him
didn't have to
back
get me.
to
I was
work.
already up ready to make breakfast, and you didn't wanna eat breakfast. Come on. I
That's true.
was ready to go the
It's
next day.
true. I know. You were. Probably crashed hard
Well,
when you got back home, though.
well, I got the old lady kicking me.
Yeah, that's true too. The good news is we got to hang out, and Shannon is going to be back with us next time too. He was able to go to Hawaii, and I think they did some special stuff over there. I'm not sure it was RC related, but we're
No
looking forward to
way.
having him, yeah, back in town. And having said all that, this episode is coming out right about the time that the fires are going on as well, and so we want to reach out to all the people in Maui and let them know that we're thinking about them. So, and then I think also, if you listen to our podcast, we have a couple of new subscribers, and it's been awesome that these guys have reached out to us and subscribed to our YouTube channel, and that always helps us out. Anytime you subscribe or send it over to your buddies. I have a friend of mine that I work with, and he and I have kind of flown together a couple times, and he was telling me that you know he was asking me again. He's like, "Hey man, I need your podcast again." He said because I've got some friends that fly RC, and I was like, "Oh, perfect." And I was like, "Well, give them the website. Here you go. Tell them there that we would love to have them over here." So Spencer Darden is one of the guys, and he, I think, actually lost his wife a while back, and he's trying to get back into the RC world. So we want to give him a shout out. And then Jason Allis, I think, is also one of the guys that he sent over to us. So we love it when new people come and want to give them a shout out because both of those guys are big into RC or at least trying to get back into RC, and we love it when we have listeners that are kind of circling back around and trying to become part of our community. So shout out to those guys. And if you're ever in Arizona, look us up. And I'm not there right at the moment. I'm still out traveling, but when I get back next month, then we'll
In the alternate in
definitely
the alternate location.
I am in the alternate location. I am in Texas still, in West Texas, not close to Jay, but West Texas with my folks. And trust me, I've been doing a lot of stuff here, man. There's so many projects going on here. I haven't had a chance to breathe, but I was able to stop what I was doing and get with Jay and do a podcast. And we always excited to
Well, you're
have
not
you
all red. I figured
listen.
you were gonna be all red and be like have all this red cake dust around your neck and on your face and stuff for being
Oh yeah,
outside
it's
and working
there.
out and
It's like
digging ditches
I,
and what you've been.
I'm gonna tell you, it's like living. It's like being on Mars. The dirt here is so red, and they're out in the middle of nowhere, so it's like you can see for miles. But I was helping my dad today. We were doing some electrical stuff, and I was wearing flip flops, and I walked because it was so freaking hot. I walked out there and I stepped in the sand, and it just filled. My foot sunk, and oh my gosh, it was so hot. I just started jumping around. I'm like, oh, ow, ow. And my dad's like, what's the matter with you? And I go, dude, this sand is hot. He goes, well, go put some shoes on. I'm like, no, that's even going to be worse because now I'm going to have sand in my shoes. So anyway, if you're in West Texas in the Lubbock area, man, there's some red dirt out here, but it's almost like living on Mars. But it's a fun time, and it's good that I get to spend some time with my folks. They're getting older. So I just actually, when I was in there last night after dinner, I set up the podcast on his phone so that it comes up automatically now, and it'll say because he has hearing aids and he can hear it on the hearing aid. So I walked in, I was messing with his phone, and I just put our podcast on, and he was sitting there, and he's like, "Hey, this is you in my ears," and I'm like, "Yep." So then he was trying to figure out how to turn the podcast off. That's pretty funny. So maybe he'll be able to listen
You're in
now.
his
that it
head,
comes up
Mike.
on
You're
his
in his
phone.
head.
I am. Yeah, I am. Well, I'm excited to get back. We actually had a quick trip back to Phoenix last week and got in for a day. Just had to do some stuff with the house and had to meet some contractors and stuff. So my wife and I went back. And man, I walked into my shop and I'm just like, oh man, I got to get back here. My jets are sitting there and all the airplanes are sitting here, and I kind of kicked myself because this would be a great place to go fly the wing. I mean, there's just nothing out here.
Oh, gotcha.
I should have brought it.
So you didn't bring anything with you?
No, I didn't. We just ran out of room, and I didn't want anything to get broke or crushed.
How much room does a wing take up? 34-inch wing take.
It doesn't. It's not the wing. I know. I should have brought the wing, but we just had so much stuff going on. It was just one of those things that I was working and I was coming in, and we had to leave right away. And I just happened. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be back. So. I mean, and when I was at home, I was at home for a couple of days last month. Mm-hmm. We got to go out with Barry and kind of test some of the airplanes. So I just figured I'd be working on that stuff when I was at home. I didn't know how my schedule was going to work out, and I thought I was going to spend more time in Phoenix than I am. So, but next month they'll come out. It's still super hot in Phoenix, and nothing I can do about that. So. Well, we have run out of time, so I'm going to let Jay go. We do appreciate you listening to us. Check us out on YouTube at our Park Flyer Podcast YouTube page. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up, like us. That's all the things that we'd like to ask you to do. I know it's towards the end, but it helps us out, and we welcome our new listeners. Also, you can jump on the website at parkflyerpodcast.com, or our email is parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com. I think we have a Facebook listeners group as well. So check out one of those and give us an email, give us a shout, let us know what you want to hear. We're going to be back with Shannon probably next 2 weeks, and we'll hear how his trip went down in Hawaii. So I'm Michael from here in Texas.
And this is Jay from the hills of Texas, and not the red dust bowl of Texas.
I know, not the Martian landscape. Anyway, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.